All right, welcome into the Knoll Road Steelers fans. How is this real life? The Ravens at 1-4, the Steelers are at 3-1, and there is your betting favorite from DraftKings to win the AFC North. Is this disrespectful to your Steelers, considering what they have done? And they're sitting here in first place clearly with 3 less losses than the Ravens. Leave a comment down below. Like the vid if you think the Steelers are going to win the North. Here we go.
To the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Yeah, buddy, welcome in. I'm Gavin Dawson, 25-year sports radio veteran, along with New Bear Lesnewski, buddy. How the hell you doing tonight? Are you feeling disrespected?
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit, a good bit pissed off by this. I'm just over the Baltimore Ravens getting the benefit of the doubt when they have not had their dudes. They have not played well. They've given up, 41, 37, 38, 44. I mean, the Houston Texans could have scored 100 points last week if they wanted to. And now all of a sudden, Lamar's just going to put his cape on in a couple weeks, and it doesn't matter that Roquan or Matabuke or any of these other dudes are out. Like, they've got dudes out at every level. They can't stop anyone except for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot suffer this much injury attrition and expect to be going anywhere in the NFL unless your name is the Dallas Cowboys offense. Holy cow, losing 80% of their line. And CeeDee Lamb, they still put up 37. We've seen a massive sample size, though, on what these injuries have done to the Ravens defense. And they're giving up 38, 37, 48. 40. It's one after another. So I don't think there's any real way they can stop the bleeding against a quality opponent until they get healthy. And then even when they do get healthy, there's still going to be a number of players who, aren't going to be able to make it back. Like Justin Matabuke, maybe their best overall defensive player when it comes to impact, the big defensive tackle. He's going to be out for the year. So I think the injury attrition is, such a big factor here. Then you go to the aging core of this team. Like, they might have just been kind of due for a Lamar Jackson mid-career regression with veterans like Ronnie Stanley and Marlon Humphrey and Mark Andrews that you are relying on. And we saw early in the Steelers season how depending on older guys can kind of get you in trouble week to week. I don't think that the Ravens offensive line is nearly as good as what it was. And now, like, their defensive identity, I think is pretty much cracked, if not broken.
Who was the last team to start 1-4? Was it the Redskins in 2020? And they were like, was that the 7-9 Redskins in 2020? And I'm trying to see if I can find this. I thought I had this up earlier where I was looking at something, and there's actually, the 7-9 Redskins in 2020. I mean, that's the level of team that you're talking about. Or you're talking about a team that goes on a run and gets to 9-7 or 10-6 and maybe ekes out a wild card. But I mean, we're not talking about Super Bowl level stuff. We're talking about 15 teams out of like 250 since the merger.
Yeah, I got the number right here. It says 1 out of every 25. That's a 4% chance.
Come on, man. Like, the Cincinnati Bengals are living in a world where Jamar Chase had as many tackles as catches midpoint through that game. We're going to see Shedeur Sanders play snaps for the Cleveland Browns this year. That's where they're at after the Dylan Gabriel experience got off so swimmingly, right? Like Quinshon Judkins, we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff. Myles Garrett v. TJ Watt. That'll be the last time I ever say his name first. And it's so ridiculously frustrating to sit here and say, thank you, Drake May, for making the 2 seed or even home field advantage a reality. Because when they're setting your fadeaway corner routes to music because you took down Josh Allen, and no one's going to go undefeated, and everyone's going to be fighting at the top of this AFC because there is no truly dominant team. Every team has flaws. Every team has something that you can look at and say, this is what will keep them from winning the Super Bowl. The Steelers have as much of everything as anybody else.
Yeah, they do, and they're healthy for the most part. and they have 3 less losses than the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, whatever you can bring up about the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's like, okay, well, the Ravens are more injured and they've lost 3 games. Now, let's take a look at some of the reasons maybe Vegas wants to doubt Pittsburgh, and you just give me your thoughts on it here on the Knoll Road. Leave a comment down below, like the video if you think the Ravens or if you think the Steelers are going to win this division. I mean, the first one would be the stats say your defense isn't that good. And I think Vegas operates in the world of simulations, which play it out over thousands and thousands of samples, gets them paid. But specifically here, the idea would be the Steelers went to Dublin and figured out how to play defense. They got Deshaun Elliott back. And he might be one of the best 5 or 6 players on this defense. So, I mean, what do you think about that? Just the idea that, yes, while the first 3 weeks were rough, the Steelers have proven that they figured out how to play defense again.
But your question was that their defense wasn't that good, or that their defense is
Vegas
now
thinking here. That's what Vegas would be thinking here.
Okay.
Is while they did play well against Minnesota, they still gave up over 20 points, even though all of it came so late. And that the numbers that you would plug into a computer simulation device would say the Steelers are very vulnerable on defense. I don't think the Steelers are that vulnerable anymore.
I mean, I see out in front of them Jordan Love, Indiana Jones, Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar presumably again, Jared Goff, Lamar presumably again. But we might not see Joe Burrow again this year. If they trade Trey Henderson because they go into fire sale mode because they go off the deep end, Burrow's not coming back for no reason. They're going to have to be in the playoff hunt or mathematically have a shot in order for him to put his body on the line behind that line. And I guess you could say there's more chances for them to play good quarterbacks and lose, or play good teams and lose because of those names that I just mentioned and went through. But at the same time, like, there's a probability they get no Burrow Cincinnati. They get whatever Cleveland slop they're throwing out. There's a high probability that we find out who Daniel Jones really is against us, right? Like, I have to, the thing that chaps my ass about conversations like this is when you talk about Harmon, Cam when he's in shape, TJ Watt, Herbig, Highsmith coming back. Where's the hole? Where's the gap? It's Keanu Benton. But that's mitigated if you're not lining up 40 times and running. That is where the Colts game gets really interesting because of Jonathan Taylor taking the pressure off of Indiana Jones, because of everything that Harbaugh wants to do to take the pressure off Herbert. But now you're seeing games where he's letting Herbert let it rip. So this defense not being very good is just bullshit because they're now dictating terms. And you're getting to a place where, okay, Ramsey's down, but Elliott is up, Peppers is up, Chuck is up, right? Like, if Queen were to go down for a week, that's when we get to find out if Bentley can play or if Peyton Wilson can step in and has a future in the Pro Bowl. Like, the answers exist within this locker room.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that happened for them was Derrick Harmon got healthy and Cam Hayward shook off the rust, and he's been one of the Steelers' best defensive players again. And Harmon is, so far their rookie of the year here in 2025. But they're getting healthy and figuring out, how to move these chess pieces around the board and figuring out what they can and can't do. So
I didn't even say Juan. We're gonna get JPJ back now. Now I'm actually getting annoyed, and it's like hard to not. Because my brain won't just stop going, well, you forgot about this, you forgot about that. There's just more. There are answers, and they keep coming.
Yeah. So then the other reason that Vegas might think, hey, the Steelers aren't very good is what the numbers would say about Aaron Rodgers. And, at this point, I think he's still 37th by the PFF scores. So you're watching Aaron Rodgers manage the game and not take risks until the Steelers really, really need him to in the fourth quarter. And so far in 3 of those instances, he's had enough of the answers to get the win. But the analytics, the numbers would say, oh boy, Aaron Rodgers looks washed up. He's not throwing past the sticks anymore. He's checking down to Jonnu Smith almost every single time, doesn't even have a air yard per target. But I feel like after watching Aaron Rodgers, he is, every bit as wise as he ever was. He can still throw the living bleep out of the football. And with this running game now with Warren and Gainwell, I think they're going to be a balanced offense. I would still love to see a wide receiver too, but I don't really have any concerns with Aaron Rodgers that maybe the public does. I think the public looks at his statistical profile and thinks he's washed up. What do you think, New Bear?
I don't see a stretch of this schedule where they fall off the cliff and lose 5 in a row again. Assuming Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they might have a blip. They might have a really ugly duckling game. They might have 1 or 2 weeks where they don't bounce back and they don't find the answers and they play a better team that gets out ahead of them, and they don't have what it takes because they don't trade for a DK Metcalf running mate, or they never figure out how to get move loose down the seam, whatever the case may be. They're not going to lose 5 in a row with Aaron Rodgers under center. It's just not going to happen. And when you go back over time and you talk about rock fight, punt on third down, Tomlin, you're talking about, Mitchell Trubisky on through Russ and Fields and everyone else. There was always this lack of trust. We're not going to throw the ball in the middle of the field because that's where bad things happen. We're not going to take chances and go for it in minus territory, even approaching midfield, even if it's a chance, if it's inches and we have a running quarterback. We're just not going to do any of that stuff because we're going to win the turnover battle and we're just going to play more sound football, and our dudes are more better than your dudes. And like on paper, when you look at this team, position by position, group by group, how many weeks do you truly go up against somebody else where you go, yeah, we got no shot, or yeah, it's going to take a lot for us to come out with the dub in this one? They're just not on the calendar, assuming everything we've talked about so far, chiefly Aaron Rodgers and health, continue to play out.
Well, buddy, I don't want to annoy you any further. I know this story has gotten under your skin a little bit, but apparently Bill Simmons says the Steelers suck and the AFC North is the new AFC South.
Yeah. Well, I mean, injuries, the best team is the healthiest team, right? The team that wins is usually the healthiest team. Think about, look, I'm the least Stan E Kansas City Chiefs, air quotes, dynasty. Watch Joe Tooney go from all-pro guard to turnstile tackle in the Super Bowl. Like, you change one thing, you change everything. And when you have Mahomes running for his life against that defense, he's going to make mistakes. That's where the Baltimore Ravens are living and getting beat today. And when you take a look at this division going into it, that would not be true, and Bill Simmons wouldn't be running his mouth if Burrow didn't have turf toe, Lamar didn't pull a hammy, the whole Ravens defense got hurt, and we're sitting here talking about the 3-1 Steelers and probably the 3-1 Ravens and 3-1 Bengals in the AFC North is the best division in football. Like, stuff happens year to year, injury variance, fumble luck, turnover-worthy plays that don't become turnovers, that the next year the team could have the least amount of turnover-worthy plays and way more turnovers just because of the way things – it's an oblong ball. It doesn't bounce right. But the one thing that's true over time is the Pittsburgh Steelers lead the league in turnover differential. The Pittsburgh Steelers play field position football, and all that stuff adds up because ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you win a rock fight 19-17 or 16-14 or whatever it takes. It doesn't have to be pretty to go 9-8.
Yeah, man, that Vikings win really fortified me in my confidence. It did the opposite of what that Seattle game did. I mean, after the Seahawks game, I thought the Pandora's box was totally open on how bad this team could possibly play. But man, you got right in Dublin, and I expect that level of performance from the Steelers for the most part for the rest of the season. And the Ravens are getting set to host the Los Angeles Rams, who got to be bitter as bleep after figuring out a way to lose against the 49ers and a week after figuring out a way to lose against the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, I think the Rams might be the best team in the NFC, and they're going to go out to Baltimore, even though it's a West team, traveling east, and absolutely tater the Ravens and push them to 5 losses, while the Steelers are moving to 4-1 and getting ready to visit the Bengals.
This is what it is. They're trying to get anybody who's going to throw money on the Ravens, because after this week, you're not betting on them. It's a done deal. That's what it is. That's that and the schedule, because the back half of their schedule is if they could get healthy and if Lamar can be the generational talent that Ryan Clark thinks he is, then they could go on a little bit of a run. Sure, anything's possible.
Up next here on the Knoll Road, Dawson and New Bear. JPJ back. He's confirmed that today at practice for sure. Ramsey out. How much is this 1-for-1 canceling each other out, and how much of this is a net loss for the Steelers?
JPJ, it's not at all. JPJ is going to run with one, or he's going to run with two if you go the old school Bill Belichick way of taking putting your guy on their number two and then double teaming the one. He's going to run, and that's going to be his duty for that day. Whereas Ramsey's playing at all three levels. They don't blitz JPJ hardly ever, which that's interesting. Do you throw that wrinkle in where because he's so big and rangy and long, where if you could unlock that part of his game, and that was something that we talked about with Ramsey coming over as him being the mentor, gold jacket to guy who has all those same measurables, traits, lineage, 23andMe, and that kind of future in front of him, but who has regressed really since he was a rookie. But not without Ramsey on the field to replace him or to clean up his mess. So I think you have to think that JPJ is just going to be running with one dude and maybe rotate throughout a game, travel, and then change who you travel against to change things up as you change the shell or the cloud, behind him.
Okay, and then Calvin Austin gave us an injury update. He's unsure if he's going to have to go on IR with his injury. Just a couple of nights ago, I thought this thing was headed in a great direction with a report that he might not even miss any games. So it seems like they aren't quite sure about how bad this is, and maybe they got to get to game day and try to, or at least get through a week of practice to see how it responds.
Well, can I just say that the coolest thing about this, if there anything cool or good can come from an injury, how about the reports coming out that when they were talking crap, DK, you can't reprint or say what he said, but how about DK stepping in and flexing on the dudes who were talking shit about how Austin was too this and that? Everyone talking about how great of a teammate and a big brother type of dude DK Metcalf is pretty damn cool to hear and to see, and just, get back healthy, get back quickly. CA3.
I think I have that clip right here. Let me see what happens. I'm not going to be able to hear it. Okay. Well, I guess that, shoots that idea in the foot. But yes, that was a cool thing.
Being for copyright anyway, but it's neat to see. This is the cloak and dagger stuff that's fascinating, week to week in the NFL. This is why we're going to talk about Vegas at all. This is why those injury reports are such a big deal. In hockey is the best, right? It's a lower body injury. It's an upper body injury. The guys are out there playing with broken legs and stuff, right? Like at least in the NFL, it's a rotator cuff or a labrum or what part of the thing is. But this cloak and dagger thing with him has been fat. He's in a sling. He's not in a sling. He was at practice. He wasn't at practice. It's like, man, they are really making us work on Calvin Austin III.
They are, and if he can't play, if he's got to go on IR, I think it just stacks up the need to make a trade. They got time, trade deadline's not till the first week in November. Like I said, you have Cleveland and Cincinnati coming up. You have to feel good about your ability to get a dub there with or without an additional wide receiver. But, I think it's a good time to talk about George Pickens, and there he is living his best life with the Cowboys. 5 touchdowns. He's already matched his career high through 5 games. It's all smiles. It's all fun. And, I don't know if the coaching staff or the media or George Pickens bears more responsibility for how it didn't go well and how those narratives formed, but I would much rather have George Pickens with DK Metcalf than an extra 3rd-round pick right now.
Yeah, it's not 1-to-1. It's not apples to apples. It's not apples to oranges, but it's also not Fuji apples to Gala apples. Like, you can't do it like that. He wasn't going to listen to anyone in Pittsburgh. He's in Dallas listening to a new voice in the head coach's seat, listening to a new voice in the huddle at quarterback, listening to a true running buddy that he wants to emulate in 88 club, CeeDee Lamb All-Pro. None of those things from an infrastructure perspective were here. He would not have respected DK Metcalf the same way that he respects CeeDee Lamb. Aaron Rodgers, maybe, but by then you have paid DK Metcalf a receiver that he thinks he's better than, and you also spent the whole offseason letting his name get dragged through the mud there was too much damage and there was nothing to do except for maybe get a 2. You would have liked to have seen them get more than the compensatory pick they were going to get for him anyway.
Yeah, I've talked to George Pickens a couple of times, and seems like a really good guy. I don't know. I wasn't privy to everything that went on behind the scenes in Pittsburgh, but I think he's, really a guy that if you go to him and you're like, hey, buddy, listen, we got to get on the same page, and here's the things you got to do, then you're already behind the 8 ball with him. It's got to be hey, welcome in. This is going to be awesome. High five. There's the lunchroom. We'll see you out on the practice field. You're going to be freaking awesome. Everything's going to go great. Here's your quarterback that's never going to talk crap about you. Here's a media and a fan base that's ready to and I think the fresh start there made George Pickens think, I want to do my part to preserve this and not go back to where I was, because that could easily happen. No matter where George Pickens is. And after week 1, it looked like it might be headed back in that direction with the talk of the lazy route running and the unnecessary roughness, personal fouls, and the drop that he had in, week 3 against Chicago. Like, a lot of positive happened in week 4 and week 5, but it's still a tenuous situation. I don't know which way it's going to go. So I wanted to acknowledge that he is a mercurial player. And, with those kind of guys, it's going to take a couple of years of a smooth ride before you could really feel like you're out on the other side of it.
It'll be interesting to see the guarantees that if Dallas sticks with him and they do sign him to a big contract, you can bet.
Yeah, what happens then?
You can bet that the language and or the guarantees will be tied to all kinds of, off-field transgress. All the voidable language will be really interesting.
But what really is a 3rd-round pick? It's a maybe starter. It's a likely bust, depending on where you use it. I'd rather have the 850 to 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns that George Pickens could give you on the other side of DK Metcalf, especially in light of them not finding another wide receiver.
So the big thing about Pickens, because I would agree with you from a data point and from a math perspective, what mercurial is the perfect word. His talent and the way his talent plays is better suited for Dallas than Pittsburgh. When you talk about black and gold, what you're really talking about is blue collar. What you're really talking about is, well, Deontay Johnson is running amok. Why wouldn't George Pickens? Or George Pickens is running amok. Why wouldn't Deontay Johnson? And then that just infects the whole rest of the team. Because if those 2 dudes aren't finishing blocks, aren't finishing routes, are running backwards from first downs, are actively pouting and walking off the field while the other is scoring touchdowns, that is just not going to fly here. And in Dallas, what you're willing to do is take the shine and everything that goes into the engagement farm at the Star, in addition to everything that comes with it, because it's just assumed that the bigger it is on all fronts, the better it is for everyone, because there's no such thing as bad PR. In Pittsburgh, they would rather have the lesser player who plays his ass off and does everything he's asked, and exactly where he's going to be. And, oh, by the way, doesn't show up 35 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour and 25 minutes, whatever it was late to the point where the inactive list had to be released and he couldn't be on it. So they had to make a decision and play him or not. And that's like the least of the concerns of the things that have been leaked in terms of timing, in terms of snacks, in terms of I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that. And then, oh, by the way, go putting out bad tape.
If you are enjoying the Knoll Road, please consider hitting that like button, help our distribution, and please hit the subscribe button if you could. A lot of people are watching and not hitting the sub, and I get it. You're busy. You just want your content and whatever. If you're on a smart TV right now, hit that menu button. You can find the subscribe, and that would just be a massive solid you could do back for us as we continue to work hard and cover this Steelers season for you. What do you think of some of this talk about Freiermuth and the snap counts and, them leaning towards Washington a little bit and, Jonnu Smith not producing? I think coming out of the bye, that's my biggest curiosity is, can you get your weapons involved more? Because when we brought up in the offseason, hey, you need another wide receiver, the most often pushback on that would be, oh, they're fine. Don't you know about Jonnu Smith? He's basically a wide receiver. He's just a smaller tight end. And so far, it's just not giving me any confidence. Like, we can't go to any of these guys on a big third down right now. I've no reason to believe they'd make the play. It's DK or Austin or nothing.
Short of going full flagship, and by that, what I mean is just glazing, gaslighting the situation. What I'm making a concerted effort to choose to do with this team from week to week is give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong. And here's what I mean by that. Until last week, well, not last week with the bye, but the last game they played in Dublin, we had not seen DK Metcalf in the slot hardly at all. In Dublin, he was there more than half the time, and he broke the game wide ass open. So now you beat Brian Flores, you beat him to the punch, you won the game. Everyone's seen that tape. They're going to have a plan for that. What's your plan for the plan that they have for your plan? What do you do off of it? And how does that adapt week to week? Because if Freiermuth does not become the seam stretching, head banging, I'm willing to put my body on the line in between Tampa, straight cover, or non-traditional 2, or anything you want to run off of it, I will lose my mind in the coming weeks.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, man. It's time to start making something happen. And I guess the good news is you have 4 weeks till the trade deadline. If it's not happening, we'll turn up the volume.
You know what I'm going to do, right?
What's that?
Hashtag Roman Wilson season.
I love it. Okay. One quick note for the Steelers opponents here coming up in 5 weeks. I guess this would be week 10, November 9th at the Chargers. You might get to play them not only without Najee Harris, who's already out for the season, but Amarian Hampton went on the IR as well today, so he's going to miss the next 4. Best case scenario, he's going to be rusty.
Man, he was just about to pop off too. I mean, it's Browns, Bengals, Packers, Colts, so that would be 5 weeks. Yeah, you're exactly right on that. Yeah, it's funny too because Jonathan Taylor's a guy who usually has an ankle issue here or there, misses a game or two. You just see so many guys up and down. DeAndre Swift has had hamstring and big time groin issues going back to Detroit by the time you get the Bears. Not that you're just saying, hey, we can't beat these teams if they're fully healthy, but Lamar with a hamstring for a running quarterback, that's going to linger, especially not just because he's a running quarterback, but because he's an off-platform thrower of the ball. He doesn't just sit back there and go 3-5-7 bang. He uses his wheels to go make plays in the passing game. And quite frankly, he hasn't been running as much. And the evolution of him as a passer was such that you were talking about his numbers basically being Aaron Rodgers running 4.25. That's how good metrically, statistically, PFF-wise, he was throwing the football. So, all these things related, all these things bleeding into and off of each other. Bottom line, when you look at the next couple weeks, is you got to be 5-1 welcoming the Packers to Heinz, right? You got to be 5-1 preparing to figure out if Broderick Jones has finally figured out how to use his hands against Micah Parsons.
That's a hell of a game coming up October 26th. Steelers hosting Packers, and you're going to have to get your protections and your weapons together if you want to plan on having any offensive success against them.
I mean, the big test comes this week, right? I know we're going to do more. I didn't even want to start because how angry I get.
Oh yeah.
But that other dude that everyone just do you think he could just send the trophy back, or should we go get it? His career achievement defensive player of the year award. Do we put it on a boat and just get it to Cincinnati somehow and then row it the rest of the way? What are we going to do ultimately with that thing? Because it belongs with TJ.
I don't know. You got to figure out some way to abscond with it, but I'm not as worried about Myles Garrett as I am just about the Cleveland front in general.
Yeah,
Malik Collins, Mason Graham, these guys are freaking nasty. And
my favorite part about Mason Graham is everyone saw one tape of him puking at camp because he was a little out of shape, like Cam Hayward, but because he's a rookie and he hasn't done shit yet. And there's been a lot of Michigan defensive line busts paging Cowboys, Dallas. That dude can play. He can really play.
Yeah. They are physical. They can rush you. they will make your life absolutely miserable and make it damn near impossible to score. That's what they did against Green Bay, and I won't be surprised if Cleveland ends the season with the best defense in football.
Do you think Mike Tomlin is saying again, or do you think the Cleveland Browns and Stefanski is playing again the film of Tomlin saying, "Don't knock Anthony Richardson out. We don't want to see Joe Flacco"?
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll be back soon with more Steelers content. Please subscribe to the show. If I see you, I'll buy you a beer. All you have to do is click the sub. Jump in and check out the channel and the short series, The Curtain Call. Every Steelers game day, we upload multiple shorts with the best highlights, and applaud the guys. For New Bear, I'm Dawson. Till next time, we'll see you on the Knoll Road.